Hi there. I saw you sneaking in.
Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone had a good month off. We didn't have a meeting last month, and I hope everyone is energized to come back and tackle the next year. So I'd like to welcome our two new board members, Chris Simeone. Am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
I think so, Simone.
Simone.
Yeah.
Okay. I added a little in there. And Jean Johnson. Welcome to both of you. We're glad you're on board with us.
Yep.
And we have some guests here. I think Susan Dunn is over here. Henry Crystal. And Roland Gibson, correct? Yeah. So welcome. We're glad you're here.
And pursuant
Yeah.
to what Marge was just saying about new members, one part of your packet is the list with everyone's names, addresses, phone numbers, emails. If any of this is incorrect, please let me know so that I can update it.
It's a constant, I think, to make sure that we have the correct information so that we can communicate with each other. So, and Nancy Levine just came in, and Barbara McCray, and you probably have Tina down. She was here earlier, so. Okay. And I need to officially remind everyone this is an open meeting according to the law. All of our meetings are open meetings, and so please do keep that in mind. And as such, we are going to be online, if I'm not mistaken. And I've heard several people comment on the fact that they do watch the meetings. So it's a good thing, I think, that we are. Even though I think some of us are still uncomfortable about it, so that's the reality. So, all right, our first order of business, and you have in your packet a copy of our last meeting, Monday, June 9th. We need to approve those minutes. I assume everybody read them, except for maybe the two new board members. I don't know if you got a copy of them before this, but, so, if so, are there any questions about the minutes?
Make a motion that we see the motion as recorded, the minutes as recorded.
Thank you, George.
I second it.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting of June 9th. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? None. Thank you. And we have a couple of other new guests that have arrived, so I'm going to interrupt the meeting just to kind of ask your name so that we record our guests,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
My name's Tom Coughlin. I live on Coughlin Road.
Hi, Tom.
Kathy Coughlin.
Hi, Kathy.
I live with him.
Can you spell your last name, please?
C-O-U, I think it's
G-H-L-I-N.
C-O-U, isn't it? C-O-U-G-H-L-I-N. C-O-U-G-H-L-I-N.
And first name? First name?
Kathy.
Kathy? K or C?
Kay's good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to old business. We have on the agenda an update on the kitchen project, which has been in the works for quite a while, and we are starting to make some progress, I think, and see some action. So where do we stand?
I just got an email today from Carl Bryant, who is the member of the Permanent Municipal Building Committee, who is responsible for this project. And they have selected a bidder to prepare the drawings. And the process will be that this winning bidder will prepare the drawings sufficiently so that a bid can be put out for the contracting of the actual work to make the changes in the diner. Now, you'll note from the minutes from June that we're a little behind our timeline. We had hoped that by this point that we were getting ready to do the bid for the contracting and that we'd have a start date. At this point, we still do not have a contractor, we do not have a start date. But I think I can say with confidence that we will not be starting this project on September 1st.
Pam, after that, have you located a place that the meal site will be able to continue serving?
I have a short list of places to approach, but everyone wants a start date. So until I have a start date, I'm not going to be able to make a confirmation. If you have any suggestions, please let me know.
For that matter, I think if anybody in town even knows of a potential area that we could use, the issue is obviously that we're not going to have our kitchen available to us for a period of time. So we would welcome any suggestions if anybody has a bright idea, you know, and they may or may not be on Pam's list of places to, you know, pursue.
Just for my information, the committee has elected an architect to prepare the drawings for.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to clarify some information about this kitchen project. I don't think the paper did it justice when they reported the situation on this kitchen project there. This kitchen project been going on for a long time, and this board was involved back when Ms. Sabota was the director here. And also when Janice Nowitzki was the director, we're the one that submitted, with this board approval, we submitted the list of equipment that was to go in there. We worked with Gail in reporting the information there. I worked with Bonnie. We switched the $35,000 that we had for the new COA van. She let us convert it over, and this board approved it, to put it in for the kitchen. And we submitted the request, and we had a contractor even to come in and to give us a estimate of what it would cost to do the renovation down there. And we turned that in, and it went before the town, and that's when the town killed it and said, well, I went back and said we need to get more information because Bill Cole was the one that was going to oversee that being taken care of there. So I just wanted to clarify that this board has been working all along in doing that kitchen over down there for the senior. So it ain't just the 2 years that this guy started. It's been stalled for 2 years. That's what has happened. It stalled it for 2 years. But all the information that there was the refrigerator, the sink came by as a result of the town building department looking the other way because they didn't have a sink to wash their hands in down there. They was washing their hands in the same sink that they were doing the dishes in. So we, in turn, as this board and myself, went ahead and started working on that with Janet. We got up and called out to get special rates for the equipment that we was going to put in there. So I just wanted to point out that the paper did not report all of what had taken place here, and this board certainly has been 100% involved in getting the kitchen in there for the senior. Thank you.
Well, thank you, George. History is important, and we can learn from that, perhaps, or sometimes kind of just accept the fact that government types of things take time, I think, too, whenever you're trying to work through things. Chris?
In the newspaper, sometimes just may miss something.
Yeah.
So in the last meeting, Tina, you had mentioned that a projection of 3 to 4 months.
Tina's over
Excuse me,
there.
Tina.
Pam.
Sorry, Pam. Excuse me. 3 to 4 months to complete the project, and a few potential sites: the Congregational Church, Minuteman Senior Services, maybe the Mormon Church or St. Anne's, on that list. What's the best guess now as far as when that 3 to 4 months may occur? And I'm asking because I wonder if that now bumps into a time when one of those 4 potential sites isn't available due to holiday stresses and schedules and the like, you know, the churches, for instance.
I'm just guessing. I am just guessing, but I think it's unlikely that we will have anything starting before December 1st or perhaps the 1st of the year,
Okay.
because they're going to have to prepare these documents. then that, they will have to go out for bid, and there's a 30-day period in which those documents are available as part of the bid process. Then the bids come back in, and again, PMBC will review the bids and choose to award. And then once the award is made, we still have to wait for the contractor to actually select a start date. So that's why I say I don't think
Okay.
before December 1st would be realistic. In regards to the various venues, what may happen is actually the other way around, Chris. One that has not been available to us may become available. The Congregational Church just started their renovation, and we were thinking that they would be down at the same time we were down, and they may be back up by the time we go out of
Absolutely.
service. But,
Okay, thank you, Pam.
And if they agree, it would be wonderful, because they would have the parking, they would have an adequate kitchen. We do the community dinner there, and it would work out fine
And they're close
if they
by.
agree.
And they are
And they're
close
and they're
by.
very close to here.
which I think is an emotional thing for people, that they're not feeling like they're going a long way away for lunch.
Yeah, I agree.
Is there any more discussion on the kitchen project? No?
There is a PMBC meeting on Wednesday night, and the project will be discussed if anyone wants to attend.
Wednesday or Thursday?
Wednesday night is the PMBC
Oh, okay.
meeting at 7:30.
Okay. Thanks.
7. Check the agenda to see where we are on
What
the
meeting is
agenda.
that?
PMBC, the Permanent Municipal Building Committee.
Where they hold the meeting at?
Where are they
Where's the meeting gonna be held?
It'll be held, I would guess, in this building. They usually meet in room 103.
107?
103.
Anything else?
It's Thursday, Pam.
No, that's the other meeting.
Oh,
There's two
There's-
meetings.
The selectmen have a meeting tonight.
It's
Right.
not the selectmen, it's the
No,
Permanent Municipal
no.
Building Committee.
No.
It's Wednesday night at 7 PM is when their meeting starts. There's also a meeting on Thursday night,
oh, yeah.
but that's just with the,
Oh,
just,
okay, yeah.
with the principals.
Okay.
I see.
All set? Are we all set with the kitchen? All right. And the next item on the under old business is an update on board reappointments and appointments.
I'll update on the chair meeting with Keith Bergman.
Pardon me?
No.
No.
B, George.
Oh, I'm
That's
sorry.
afterwards.
I'm sorry, yep.
It's okay. You're just pushing us too fast here.
No, I just put my last sentence in the wrong line.
So, actually, the update is that Bob Stetson and Barbara Cam did choose to come back on the board with us. And we welcome them, and we're glad they stayed.
Right.
And Marsha Russell did step down.
Yes, yeah.
So we currently have 2 board vacancies.
And Mary Kay did not return her
And,
reappointment
right, Mary
letter.
Kay did not return her letter, but she is no longer on the board because if you don't return your letter, then you're considered not a board
Yes.
member anymore. So, and along those lines, we have as a guest Susan Dunn, who has submitted an application. Susan is over here. And maybe it would be nice to go around and introduce ourselves. And,
Did you,
Mary? I welcomed Chris and Jean at
Oh,
the
you
very
did
beginning of the
before.
meeting. Yes.
Oh.
Thank you, though. I'm glad you're
Oh,
helping me
yeah.
out because I'm new at this, so
I'm watching out for
I'll
him.
I'll take all the help and all the reminders you want to give me, so thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Maybe you might want to ask the gentleman in the back if any of them interested in getting on the board.
Well, if they are, I think anyone that's ever interested in being on the board needs to, talk to a board member if you're comfortable with that. The final and the big thing is you need to go to the selectman's office and get an application and fill it out. And so, but any board member would welcome contact from you. Pamela would welcome it if you'd like to speak to her as the director. And we certainly do encourage you to do that. So, we would like to address Susan's application, because she did send this in a while ago, did you not?
I am passing it around now.
Passing around.
It happens to be the only copy we've got right now.
Okay. So, I would welcome, I think it would be nice, since Susan's been waiting, she did submit her application a while back, beginning of the summer? Yeah. So I think we ought to, if we have questions for her, we could ask the questions so that we can, make a decision about that and move on. So, we shouldn't be keeping her waiting, just because we didn't have a meeting in July. So, okay. So, go ahead, if you would like to ask Susan any questions about,
I'm Bob Stetson, I'm the secretary of the board. I'm just curious, why did you decide that you wanted to be on this august body?
A while back, I was feeling like I wasn't participating in the town anymore. The kid's grown and gone. I've done other things, and I was looking for some way to volunteer, and I wanted to volunteer with something that was going to resonate with me, that I was part of. And as you can see, I'm a senior, and so I volunteered, yes.
You don't know what senior is.
I get discounts and everything. So I volunteered, and I work in the office a day a week, or with Pam in the council office, and it got me engaged with seniors, and I really enjoy the conversation, the things I've learned, and I thought, well, maybe my skill set and my love of Littleton would be good for the board, and it would be good for me.
Hi, Susan. I'm Louise Curley,
Hi.
and I love being on the board. I think it gives us as seniors an opportunity to know what's going on and to try and do some good. I have a weekly blood pressure clinic here, which is very well
I
attended.
saw you on Tuesdays, right?
Yes, yeah, and it gives me such a great sense of joy. So thank you for your interest.
Susan, my name is George Sanders. Oh, we going in line?
No, that's
Okay.
all right, George, you go right ahead.
That's all right. I didn't. Go ahead.
My name is Mary Catalanato. I've been on the board for many, many years. I've seen it grow and fulfill many of the dreams and things that the seniors need, we are trying to fill. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Can I go now?
Yes.
My name is George Sanders, and I've been on the board a few years, and I was the chair for quite a few years. And we worked real hard, whether people realize it or not, in trying to do a lot for the seniors, and fighting with the town about the low budget that we always worked with, and the lack of hours that Tina needed, and finally they accept the fact of giving Tina the hours that she needed. But I think a lot of credit goes to this board fighting over the years for a lot of things that we needed, because I can remember when we didn't have money in the budget, we had to fight with them, and I got Alan McCray to give me some ideas, and he said, go to the reserve, have them go to the reserve and get the money out of there. So they was able to get the money out of the reserve because the Friends helped us out. We didn't have money to put tires on the van, and the Friends gave us the money, and I made sure that the Friends got the money back that we needed. That's how desperate that the COA has been with money as far as the budget went. And it's still sort of kind of tight, if you ask me. Thank you. But welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, Barry.
My name is Barry Kershaw, and I've known Susan professionally for 20 years.
Ah,
And I can wholeheartedly vouch for her integrity, her hard working, her skills, and she will be a great asset to the board.
Oh, great.
wonderful, very nice.
He was a partner, we used to partner on deals in real estate when I did real estate all those years ago. He taught me very much about real estate and how to be professional. In fact, I in a way, took from his cover letter on these market analysis that we would do. He wrote the most brilliant cover letter, and I would cherry pick parts of it and use it. Unlike Joe Biden, I guess, some places.
I'll pay you later for those notes.
I was gonna say, you sure we're talking about the same thing?
Thank you. Well, I'm Chris Simone, and I'm on day one. So, but do recognize the very important work the board does, the fact that many hands make light work, maybe, but the work that, as George and the board reflected, the work that is accomplished here is real and meaningful and affect people's lives in very practical ways.
And by
So-
volunteering, I got to see that. And part of the motivation for wanting to be part of it is that, you know, you bring your enthusiasm and your ideas and your own concerns about the aging process to the board to help direct where we should be going and where we should be looking. And
Well, that's
I'm
great.
excited to do that.
Well, thank you for being here very, very much. And to the comment made about the rest of the members in the audience, I do see a number of wonderful candidates for membership on this board, and look forward to seeing applications coming forward.
We have 2 vacancies, don't we?
We do.
Yep. No, two.
Two.
She said two.
Now,
Yep.
2 right now.
one will be two.
And I'm Barbara Cam, and I've known Susan for a long time also, forever.
40 years or
Oh, she wasn't going to say that.
Childhood friends.
They were little kids.
No, she had to put up with my infamous and wild older child at Evergreen Acres Nursery School.
She put up with mine too. Marge's too.
Yeah, I was going to say, she's known a lot of our children.
The things she knows about us.
The secrets. So what I do
Telling
now
it
is
all
welcome
now.
to the board.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jean Johnson, and this is my first meeting, and that's all I can say is welcome aboard.
All right.
And of course, Susan knows me. I'm Pamela Campbell, Director of the Council.
No kidding.
And I know Susan because Susan has been a volunteer on the front desk. Dependable, reliable, level-headed. We also use Susan to fill in the selectman's office.
They send me to Siberia.
And I heard only good reports back, so.
Wonderful.
How can anybody report anything? You sit up there in coolness. The phone doesn't ring. I was there for 3 days. It rang twice. One time it was my husband. It's a really easy job. Kind of lonely though compared to being in the office at the council, where, you know, people stop in to tell me what they want to see the council do, and I'm going, oh, good, you know, and I'm writing face to face, and who stopped by to tell me what?
And I think we've talked on the phone, and I'm
Yes.
Marge.
Yes.
New chair. I'm novice. I've been on the board, actually, this is my 3rd year, so I'm still new kid on the block, almost new kid on the block. We have a couple of newer kids on the block. But I think I have one question, only because I think it would be helpful information. What would you feel are your strengths when working with a group of people? And how do you think that could apply to working with seniors?
I'm a very good listener.
Great. That's a great strength.
I
They're
take
going to talk a lot of joining if they keep it up.
I process the information that I hear before I speak. Most of the time. I'm getting older, my filters are going. I'm very, very organized because of OCD, so I'm extremely organized. I'm articulate. I think I'm very friendly and personable. I think the people who've come into the office, I've really enjoyed them, so I think that when you enjoy somebody and you enjoy talking to them, they respond and they know it. So those are things, and I do I do care about our group.
Thank you. All right.
I would move that we,
Wholeheartedly.
affirmative vote to recommend Susan to the Board of Selectmen.
I agree.
Second,
All in favor?
All in favor?
And I want to thank you
Can we
personally.
have a vote first?
Oh,
Excuse me?
sorry.
I
Just
thought we
all in
just
favor?
vote.
Pardon me?
We just
We
voted.
said
I didn't see everybody, I don't think
Oh, okay.
everybody heard it. That's why I'm asking, please. We have two hands down there. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you
Unanimous.
for bringing this, bringing her, Susan, to the board. I think this is something that we should do from now on.
Well, it's important, I think, for prospective members to know who we are too as individuals and get a
Definitely.
feel for the group.
Yep, definitely.
So, and that's, it's important, when you
Yep.
gotta work together as a group and as a team.
Yep.
I've been watching you on TV.
See, there we go. So it's good that we are on TV, yeah, even though that was a hard thing for us to do. All right, so we will send that recommendation forward to the Board of Selectmen.
And Marge, I wanted to mention, this came in after the agenda. I sent this to everyone by email. It's the next set of board trainings, which are recommended for new people on the board.
Right.
And in particular, there's one in Groton in October. So I know it's a little early, but, put that on your radar. If you can't do that, there's several other dates, but none of them are as convenient. Lynn, Great Barrington, Duxbury, they try to spread them around. Quincy and Northbridge.
It's nice if you can go to one that's close by. And may I just piggyback on that and encourage board members, if you have not been to one of the trainings recently, they're open, you don't have to be a new board member to go, if I'm
That's
not
right.
mistaken.
Yep.
And if you have not gone to one of the trainings recently, it would be, I think, very helpful to you and informative to go to one.
Definitely.
I learned a tremendous amount when I went as a new board member, and I think, sometimes if we haven't done something for a while, we think we know it, but things change, especially when it comes out from Emmett's office and things change, and you'll learn what they are, at the state level, recommending councils to be doing.
And friends of the COA are welcome as well.
Yes.
And the date, do you have the date?
There's several. Always go. I'll send it to you.
Oh, you just
Okay,
have to
thank
go to
you.
one of them?
You just have to go to one, yes.
Yeah, they're all pretty much
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of
They
variation
just-
depending on the question.
Yeah, and they hold them in different locations around the state so that people can get to them
Closest one is
conveniently.
Groton, and that's the 17th of October.
17th of October.
Great. Okay, thank you. Ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, now we can do C, the update on the chair meeting with Keith Bergman regarding the transaction, the $4,500 bill from the, pardon me?
Transit.
Transit, you're right, the transit program. And Bob Stetson and I did meet with Keith on, I think it was the 25th of July, June 24th, I was close. And we sat and had a discussion with Keith about this. And actually Keith shared a lot of information about Crosstown Connect, just informative things about the program in general, the fact that, the plans for it to grow, his anticipation that there will be a separate budget in the, item down the road for the town of Littleton as far as transportation costs, but that's in the future. But the outcome was also, and I clearly wrote this down, that he said the $1,500 that we had brought up at our last meeting, that we, the bill was $1,500 more than we anticipated, he said it would be covered by Crosstown Connect. Now, I need to send him an email and follow up on that and figure out how we get that money and make it happen. So that's where I'm at with it. And Bob, do you have anything else to add? Because Bob and I both met with him. Back in June, we tried to get it done right away before, everybody started scattering for the summer. And that's where it's at.
It'd be great if we could get that 1,500 back.
Right, we need to figure that out. And so I will be pursuing that.
When will the next bill come?
December.
Quarter.
Every quarter,
No, they're going to do it on the half year, Bob. They decided they'd send it in December.
every 6 months.
Any questions about that, or? Yes,
Question.
George?
Who's this Crosstown Connect that we're gonna get the 1,500 from?
Crosstown Connect is the transportation program that is now, that they're developing. There are 4 towns, correct, if I'm, Pam, 7 towns that are
7.
going to be in it, but not up and running. Or the 7 towns are in it. Yes, that's the correct way to say it.
Only 4 are
Only-
doing dispatch.
Only 4 are up and running as far as dispatch goes.
Well, I thought they the one that billed us in the first place.
No, Transaction Associates is the contractor that actually does the dispatching, and they build us.
So they bill the town direct and not to the organization that,
Right.
hubbing this?
That's the method. They're a contractor for them, and so they are instructed to bill the towns for their cost. I assume.
So we need to iron out those, yeah, exactly, the, what's happening and how we're going to prevent that from happening in the future.
Did we pay the 4,500 or did we only pay the 3,000?
No, we've paid the 4,500.
We did.
So, yeah.
Because we had a bill, and it needed to be consolidated for the end of the year.
Yeah.
And we voted at the board meeting to take the 4,500 from the,
Right.
from the for the fund for the
Yeah.
bands, and so we'd like to get back, but we, at the time, also said that we needed to go after the 1,500.
We only joined them in March,
That's why, because.
and we got billed for 4,500.
That's what they charged us, because they said that the thing had
Started.
been in the works since February, so therefore they could charge us. And we said no, because we were paying our own dispatchers until the end
Yeah.
of March.
And some of the problem was that it was all happening in June there, and that's the end of our fiscal year, too. So bills had to get paid. So we need to, that's not a dead item. It'll be on the agenda again next
That
month.
happens with a couple of things. It also happened with the Minuteman. We're supposed to pay 2,000, we paid more because they sent us a bill for more, and that's got to be worked out too, because we had already had an agreement with them that we would not pay more than 2,000, but they sent us the bill for the whole thing.
Minuteman bills us per head, per
They make a
senior.
decision as to how much, and it is a.
They break it
not
down
a-
proportion.
It's
They break it down.
not a bill, it's a
Assessment.
assessment. And we said, no, the assessment was too high. So, those kind of things happen.
Yeah. Any other discussion on that, on the Crosstown Connect bill? What's the name of the group again?
Transaction Associates. is the
Transaction
contractor
Associates,
that build
yeah.
us. So you guys are going to be back in touch.
I will,
After you
yes, I'll send Keith an
circle back
email
around to
about
Keith.
that, and I can put you on it and CC you,
That'd be great.
okay? Okay. Are we ready to move on to new business? Anyone else have any other old business that we might have omitted and by error? Okay. Chris has done some work on the senior tax deferral program, and I think in your handout, you have a copy. You do? Dated August 5th, 2014, that Chris has submitted, and he's going to speak to us about this.
Can I make a comment? This is not the senior tax program. This is a senior deferral program, which Chris will explain. Keep the two separate, because we're not talking about
The work
money,
program.
that they give out to seniors. This is another program that they can be involved in.
Go ahead, Chris. Would you like to share with us, although he's gotten some valuable information for us, I think.
It probably worthwhile just starting with the summary of the program and what its goals are. But in effect, it is, as Bob mentioned, so this is an effort to create a deferral for property tax. So that, in effect, if the resident qualifies, the resident may defer some or all of his or her property tax and pay it at a later date. At times when the property is sold eventually, for instance. There is an interest which applies, which is an amount which the town has some discretion over. But in effect, it's quite simply as it sounds. It's a tax deferral program, and the ultimate goal is to help seniors stay in their homes. Given the limitations of circuit breaker and other programs that are available that are providing some relief, but not enough relief. And it's been a program that we've had for some time. All surrounding towns have. It's a function of a state law which drives some of this. And unlike other towns that have had seniors enroll in the program, we actually have 0 seniors enrolled in the program, which was surprising. And it prompted some benchmarking with surrounding and nearby towns as far as how are they working with the program. And that chart is included. But what we also found, and it also comes by way of a conversation with our assessor and in the assessor's office and looking at what's transpired in Littleton, that there are a few key factors here in other towns which really drive adoption of this program, which is really a win-win. It costs the town nothing to really administer and maintain this program, in effect, because the deferred property tax is ultimately paid back with some degree of interest. And other than that amount of interest, it doesn't cost the homeowner, and it costs the homeowner nothing in the interim years. But there are a couple factors that hold it back. One is income limits for qualification. We are far behind what nearby and surrounding towns are doing. The law, which is driven, and you have a copy of this in your book, so it's the Bureau of Municipal Finance law. It's this IGR, Informational Guideline Release 08208 from 2008. It does stipulate that $20,000 is the income limit that a senior may have in order to qualify, though it gives the town the ability to create a local option. And that local option changes every year. It's predicated on the circuit breaker law, which can change by way of cost of living. So that, in effect, as Pamela pointed out to us, the current limit that we're allowed is $55,000, and that increases every year. And so, in short, what that means is that the way our program works, if a senior has any form of gross receipts, wages, tips, any form that
You
work
mean
off
20,000,
20,000. What did I say?
55.
50, okay, more than 20,000 can't participate, and that's one of the 4 reasons why we have 0 enrollments. The other is just general communication around the program, that it exists, how it works, and a key concern about confidentiality. So we're all, I think a lot of us are in this boat. Our personal finance and businesses are personal information, and we're afraid of it being held as that. And what our assessor and assessors in all the towns I've spoke with said, it's a common recurring theme. Seniors are just concerned that it will not be confidential, that they're participating in the program and what their income was and the qualification process. And so the fact that we're bound by the conflicts of interest law and other laws and standards in the assessor's office, it truly is confidential, and how that is kept as confidential needs to be better communicated. There's an interest rate, as we mentioned, on that deferral. We assess the maximum percentage we can by this law, which is 8%, and benchmarking indicated with other surrounding towns that the range is from 0 to 8%. But I think there's only one other that's actually charging 8%, and there's some sensitivity around that. It feels intimidating.
Yes.
2.
Yeah, it feels intimidating. Given mortgage rates, they're commonly communicated around 4% and other standards. And finally, in order to qualify, that deferral, which is accruing, and the interest, which is accruing, maybe for many years, is paid back to the town. And the way that that debt is secure is really by way of a lien. So there's a deferral agreement in effect. It is a lien. So a lien is placed on the property. So ultimately, that's how the town is sure when a transaction occurs with the property that it's paid because it's recorded at the Registry of Deeds. And that lien has some stigma attached to it as well. For seniors who have lived in the home for so long and have worked so hard and have paid for it, had a lien once upon a time and a first or second mortgage, in many cases no longer have a lien on the property, to all of a sudden have a lien on the property, it can feel as though perhaps it's a step backwards, or it's just uncomfortable and it's complicated. And again, it's a function of communication, that it's no different than the lien that would have been on the property once upon a time with a mortgage. So those are the 4 key factors which may affect adoption. We can simply vote by way of town meeting, should the selectmen agree to put this on the warrant as an article, put this on the warrant, then we could certainly increase that income limit. And in talking to the assessors in all these other towns, they all talk about this program with almost a degree of regret, that it's such a great deal for all stakeholders. And so, you often find programs which, they may conflict in one way or another, or one stakeholder group may benefit more than another, or what have you. This is truly a program that the town wins, the senior wins, yet, as we see, enrollments, only in Chelmsford, I think it was, Chelmsford has 20 enrollments. The others vary from 0 to 20. And they all regret that, given how valuable the program can be. And they all feel that a big part of that, again, you look at how they handle the income limit. Many of them are at least at $40,000, and that's because when they first took up the act with their town meetings, that was the limit. And so they just haven't revisited the limit. I think it's safe to assume they may have voted in a higher limit. And some towns are putting it on, like Westford, annually. They are taking it up and they are adjusting it every year. So in FY14, Westford was at $53,000, they're going to $55,000. And so we see what the surrounding towns are doing. There's really no practical reason not to have the maximum limit, since it would only encourage and enable more seniors to enroll,
Right.
and it costs the town nothing. And so there's a clear argument to increase the income limit so that more seniors can participate should they want to. And second, the interest rate, I think we would want, in my humble opinion, to have a conversation about, while 8% is allowed through this IGR, as we can see, the surrounding towns are adopting much less of a percentage. I think the conversation there is a percentage perhaps to cover the administrative burden, but 8% I think would certainly surpass that. So in effect, that is how this program, commonly referred to as Clause 41, works in its goal.
Clause, did you say?
Yeah.
41? It's referred to?
Yes. Yep. 41A.
Go ahead.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
There's a loophole here, because under state statute, if this property get transferred, it says that the interest will accrue at 16% per year rate. So if you got an 8% on that, so if the lien does not clear when the property is transferred and it stays on there, they automatically jump into the 16%, no matter what it was that they had as an interest rate, because it's now transferred. So the previous owners no longer have the advantage of that law. So this law kicks in, and it jumps from an 8 to a 16% is the way I read it here, according to the way the statute is written.
Also, that's how I took it, and I did ask the assessors in the surrounding towns about that, and it's one open question in the notes for us, I think, to follow up with our assessor, is because a couple of the towns talked about a period of time which would elapse before that 16% would kick in. And so really what it's saying is, should the property be sold or the owner of the home pass, and then the property is sold, and some period of time go by where that lien hadn't been satisfied, then all of a sudden the rate will go up to 16%. And the question is, how long is reasonable for the town to wait? And some towns were, and that's also, that can also be local optioned away. So that's a choice we have as far as whether or not we charge that up to that 16%. And then if there is a secondary rate, I'm not sure from reading it, because it's ambiguous in the language, what we can set as that window of time. You know, one of the towns was at 6 months, another town I think was at 3, but I'm slightly uncertain on that, but there is clearly something there.
But it needs to be
figure out.
clarified.
It does need to be clarified. Yeah.
It's a good point, George.
You answered many questions. I'm not knowledgeable on it at all, but my first impression is, who would handle it? You answered that. To me, it seems like it's another way of being a reverse mortgage. And also, you speak of liens. An elderly person, if they go in a nursing home, who gets first choice? The town or the nursing home on that person's property? It's like a lien.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Also,
Good
20,000,
question.
Social Security and annuities is nothing. That 20,000 is very low.
Right.
Yeah, well, certainly on the income
Income.
limit, yeah, the gross receipts or income limit, what our assessor's humble opinion, she felt that, and other assessors said the same. I mean, if there are, it's very difficult for one individual not to miss that. And we have seniors who have attempted to enroll in the program, but have not been accepted simply because they're slightly over it. And if you're over it by $1, you're over it. And if there are 2 seniors in the household, it's near impossible. But that's a good point about the lien. In fact, that's one of the aspects of the lien. The town becomes the first lien holder, the way that this law works. And if there is a mortgage on the property still, and it would be a first mortgage, it would be a first lien holder, that lien holder has to agree to become the second lien holder.
At the time that
People don't
you,
do that.
It's reverse mortgage is the easy way out, I think, from my limited knowledge.
Absolutely, and that has come up, and it seems like it would be a great informational session for us to help better communicate how reverse mortgages work, and the same. So to put as many options on the table as we can.
Madam Chair, I think the other thing here that you're dealing with, if this person goes in a nursing home, I think if the person dies, then you got a state. You know, this gets into the courts then, is who this been left to, what the will says, et cetera. So, you know, this is a big blown out thing here. It ain't a simple process to this. And I think that, to me, I think to think that the town is going to take first preference on a mortgage that's on the property, if that's the case, for them to lien. I don't think too many banks would, they may, would agree to give the town the first option at that.
The bank is not going to revert to a second mortgage status. The bank is still,
If there's a
originally
mortgage.
had a first mortgage, they remain a first mortgage. You're not changing the status of that. But there won't be any conveyance of the property unless the municipal liens are satisfied.
Right, which is the question about how could that 3 or 6 month period even occur?
Well, that's a different question
Yeah.
altogether. Behind that.
Bob?
yeah, I think what we're doing is we're arguing whether it would be a good thing to use this tax deferral. That's not the point. The point is, it's already there.
Right.
It is there for people to use if they choose to use it.
Yeah.
But it is at limits that are practically impossible for anybody to meet in order to be able to use it if they choose to do that. They would have to find out the answers to all of these questions that we're asking, and we may want to get involved in helping them to do that. But I think the question at this point that Chris is raising is, are these reasonable for people to even have an opportunity to look into it? And I agree with him that I think that they're way low. And I would not be adverse to having asking the selection for a warrant article that raises the income level and lowers the interest to the to the town on a bill, on a law that's already there.
Exactly.
And then perhaps getting into it, if it is approved, then getting into explaining to the seniors of the community what their options are if they want to use this. And yeah, there are some aspects of a deferred mortgage. or a reverse mortgage. There are some aspects of how long they're going to live and how much interest is going to accrue and how much of the house it's going to take, but those are a different discussion.
Sure. Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
How do you disseminate information that this program even exists? I mean, I was in the office and Pam was talking about it, but I had never heard that.
Go to the assessor's
Excuse me.
office, ask them.
Well, I think that's part of what we're doing here, is talking about the fact also that information needs to be disseminated, and that's what Bob was just saying, that's
Yeah.
where we're at with it, I think. Did you want to say something?
I wanted to just give you some information following on with what Bob was just saying. There is going to be a special town meeting in the fall, and there is a warrant that will be set in September. So if this board wishes to ask the Board of Selectmen to place something on the warrant, it would be prudent to do it now or at the September meeting. If you can't come to agreement by the September meeting, then it would not happen until May or the following fall.
Yeah.
So just timing
Now,
wise.
well, I guess what my question, Madam Chair, would be was if we were to do that, would we write up a revised warrant? Would we merely suggest that the ongoing law be, that the selectmen make up a warrant that increases the maximum income and the interest limit? I don't know how we would even do that.
There is some, what's nice about this informational guideline release is they actually give you some template language, give us so that we can work, I imagine, with Pamela and with Keith. But they give you some, just stock language here with some blanks as far as what that income limit is and what that interest rate is.
So what I'm getting at is we're talking about a time limit to get it on the fall warrant. If we all agree that it is necessary for that to be, the income level to be raised and the interest level to be lowered, and I wouldn't want to see us get into a big argument as to how much on each, then can we actually have a vote today that states whatever that language is, filling in the new numbers, and suggested it be provided from the council to the select?
And the board recommends to the selectmen that they look at this and put it on the warrant.
Well, I'd like to just throw out a figure if I could. I think the triggering amount of income should be no less than 40,000. We're not Westford here, we don't have quite that income level. But I think that would bring it, if they do at least that, it will have some substantial benefit right off at the beginning.
At 40,000.
At 40. And if they want to go higher, they're welcome to do it.
Good point. George?
Madam Chair, I'm just looking at some of the stuff that towns got. I look at Air. Air got income at 55,000.
No one uses it.
And no one uses it.
I know, huh?
Westford got it at 53 and nobody uses it.
No, they do have
20.
enrollments. I just
They
don't
did
have that,
20.
I didn't have the number in Westford.
Okay, you got the numbers, so we don't have it here.
Yep.
But my thing is that if you have elder people that probably is retired, some of them may be drawing a 401k, 401k. They may be drawing,
Social
they're
Security and
getting Social
annuity.
Security between
annuities.
two people that are husband and wife. So it's easy that they could jump over the 40,000. I would just say the safe net would be that the limit, to me, I would say go to 55,000. And that way, anybody that's down up under there, they got a better chance of maybe qualifying for it. If you want to try to get a lot of people into the program that may want to do it, I think that if we're going to go in and ask them to set a number, I would take the 55,000 and set that being the number, and I think that we could get some people in under that figure.
Well, and Chris, thank you, George. And Chris also said that it apparently gets increased every year anyway. The maximum, the 55, has you said it, you thought it had been going up?
It does.
Yeah.
The-
So,
It's balanced on the state, but it does, the town number is the town number.
right, I understand
We
that.
have to change it.
I understand that, and that's why perhaps some people went with the 55,000, knowing if they just recently,
Yeah.
changed it.
I
So-
think to George's point, it's probably, again, there's no cost to the town disappear.
Yep.
They're
It-
losing money.
It only increases the range of folks who
money they
can
can't
have the
spend.
choice.
Money
Yes.
At
they're
least.
losing.
That's right.
And if they don't lose it. they
It's a
just
rainy
can't-
day
they
fund
can't
if you want to
spend
look
it.
at it.
Yeah. But it's accruing with some degree of interest. The second, I think, would be to avoid confusion. I mean, some of these towns are ratcheting it up every year as that limit increases. But there's probably an argument to hold it somewhat constant for a few years, just to make the administration of it, and it is somewhat complex.
Yeah, it would
So
be,
we
yeah.
can remove some of the complexity if perhaps we don't have this annual, variability to it. So if we set the lowest possible reasonable interest rate now, but that can survive a number of years without being changed, and set the limit, then revisit in a few years, it probably keeps it more simple to the degree possible.
Barbara, did you want to say something?
Yeah, could it be that many people never heard of it? Or
Yes.
don't know anything about it? A matter of information. The circuit breaker, there are probably hundreds of people out there eligible for the circuit breaker, but
Right.
they don't know about it. They don't take advantage of it.
Well, at least it asks you on your
It's-
taxes about the circuit breaker.
Pardon me?
At least it asks you when you fill out your taxes on the circuit breaker. But people who don't file taxes can still get the circuit breaker, and they don't know that.
I know it.
They
I
can
know
get
it.
a refund.
Even
Well, I wouldn't say
towns,
they don't, excuse me, Madam Chair, I wouldn't say that they don't know it. You got a lot of them that just don't want to do it. Because Barbara and I worked on the circuit breaker down in, was that the green room? We worked downstairs there getting all those taxes and things signed up. So circuit breaker's been around and it's been known, and they've put it out in the newsletter as well. So,
even in towns that have had more kind of progressive programs to find relief for seniors, that in those programs like in Sudbury that have had a lot of communication around them, even there's a gap where information's just simply not getting out. And so there's a couple layers of the challenge. One is people even knowing about it. The second is becoming comfortable with it because of the nuance around the confidentiality, for instance, the way, the proper context on the liens. So getting the message out and thinking carefully about that message will be critical.
Madam
George,
Chair, you got a couple gentlemen in the back there.
I'm sorry. I have to learn to turn my head, I think. Yes, Mr. Coughlin?
Yes, I just have a couple of questions, and I really don't expect you to have the answer today. The folks that have their homes in a trust,
That's a good
can they
question.
participate in this program, or, because essentially what they do is they give the home to their kids or their beneficiary. They no longer own that home.
That's right.
So are they eligible to participate in this,
I doubt it.
in this
I
program?
doubt it.
I can answer a portion of that. If you file under the tax program according to the feds and the state for the town of Littleton, you do not qualify.
That's right.
Chris, do you want to speak to that? Because I think there's something in your document about that.
Yeah, there is something in this code, I'm just trying to find it, it's been a
I've
couple
got it
weeks
right
since
here.
I've read it, that speaks to,
I can
Yeah,
read it to you,
please.
I've got it right here. An applicant must be a natural person who owns the property, blah, blah, blah. May be a sole owner or may own jointly, blah, blah, blah. As with personal exemptions, an applicant who holds a life estate in the property is considered its owner. If the property is held in trust, the applicant must be a trustee who also has a sufficient beneficial interest in the property.
Could I get a copy of that, ma'am?
It's available from Mass DOR.
Okay, all right, I
But-
just got it online.
Well, people
If you
on
send
the-
me an email, I can send you a copy of it.
Okay. The other question I had, is that 8% you speak of, is that a hard and fast number? And George talked
It is
about
now.
going to 16%, and I would like a little more clarification there.
sure. The 8% is the maximum allowed under this law. We do not have to, just as we can
By the town
adjust.
of Littleton.
Yeah,
No.
we can adjust that interest rate to anything between 0 and 8%. The 16% is an ambiguous term in this that we're gonna have to get clarification on. as to what happens if there is a transaction with the property some years later, and then some period of time lapses where that lien hadn't been satisfied and the town hadn't received its money, then there can be, then that rate can change. And we're not certain as to the terms around that, if we have to do that and what the time periods would be. So we have to do some research. It's very unclear
So
in
does
this IGR.
is there, that time frame that you speak of, is there anything hard and fast about how much time that is before they go to the 16?
I found it to differ in towns. One was at 3 months, I think. One was at 6.
Okay.
Others, there didn't seem to be a limit. So I'm not, and I couldn't quite get the answer to that one.
Okay.
Well, the statute says that it's from the date of sale of the death until the payment is made.
Okay, excuse me for a second,
Yeah.
we have some other people that have questions. I'm sorry.
I was just answering his
I thought he was
question to
done.
what he was saying.
Yeah, okay.
You can look at this here, you can read it for yourself.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Crystal?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I was really excited when I saw this item on the agenda to talk about senior taxes. I mean, this is wonderful, and that's why I'm here. And this particular program, I think, has a lot of advantages. Now, I'm 77 years old, been here for 50 years. I live on Social Security. So, even Social Security is like $36,000 a year. So you gotta, that's why I like 55. But in spite of the problems here, the questions, and there are real questions, and it's wonderful you're addressing them, it's gonna help some people, absolutely. I can see the day, 10 years from now, when I'm hobbling around like this, okay? And believe me, if I got a $10,000 tax bill I'm looking at, that $10,000 might decide whether I eat or don't eat this year. I mean, this is a real thing, and lots of people, I think, are gonna look at this and say, this is important. And we don't know who they are, and we don't know what they are, but I think if this group was to focus on the questions, the education, the understanding, how do you use it, you're providing a really great service. So, thank you for doing this. And because I've been interested in seniors and taxes, I have something I would like to leave you. It's too much to get into today. I'd like to leave it with you, Madam Chairman, because it's about the town of Sudbury, who in 2011 sent a bill to the Massachusetts legislature. Are you aware of this at all? Anybody?
I'm aware of it.
You're aware of it. Anyway, the citizens of Sudbury voted unanimously at town meeting to do something for seniors and taxes. And now what they asked for has been negotiated, and Sudbury now has reduced taxes. For qualified seniors, your taxes are now limited, capped at 10% of your income.
I think we had some discussion about that
Yeah.
briefly. We haven't gotten into that either, but it
Well, I will sit down and shut up. I'd like to,
Yeah.
can I leave this with you?
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
study? I mean, it's
Absolutely.
very good information, and I trust it to.
Well, I thank you for bringing it to our attention. No, I think that's a great,
Yeah.
great, wonderful, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
Madam, may I respond? Madam
Yes,
Chair?
you may respond.
And at the budget meetings last fall, this was a discussion item with the Board of Selectmen and the FinCom as
good.
well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's-
It's been under discussion, and Chris brought it up at the
Oh,
meeting
good.
in June.
I'm not up on those things.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, also, could we, a couple comments on that? Sure.
Mr. Gibson's waiting patiently.
Oh, Mr.,
I
please.
might change the subject, but go ahead. There's a thread going and.
It's a good conversation for us to have, I think, again. I think this is a great next step to shore up this deferral program, the mechanisms around how it works, how one may enroll in the communication around it. And then for us to look for those other ideas that might be the next lowest hanging fruit. And you look at what Sudbury did. They're in year 2 of this 3-year pilot program. And, you know, of course, they were trying to solve the challenge that the limitations of the circuit breaker. In essence, the circuit breaker is in place to ensure that a senior would not have a property tax burden greater than 10% of his or her income. That's the fundamental goal. And under certain qualification, you may get up to $1,000 credit. Those layers of qualification and complexity in short in many towns means that even with the circuit breaker, a senior is still paying greater than 10%, and that alone is driving a number of seniors from their home. And so Sudbury, following Hamilton's lead and other towns' lead, said, what can we do to help the circuit breaker effectively reach its goal? The point of the circuit breaker, which has been broadly accepted, isn't being met. And so what can we do to shore it up? And so they did, in fact, come up with a program in Sudbury that, in effect, defers some of that, not defers, but it transfers some tax burden from senior citizens who qualify, those who would still be paying 10% even though they got the circuit breaker credit, and found a very innovative program that was near unanimously accepted by the voters at town meeting when they understood that per 1,000 their tax rate was only going up 7 cents, which on $630,000 homes on average in Sudbury meant the average homeowner was only paying another $45 per year. Yet near 200 seniors impacted in this way were being benefited. And when the town understood the purpose and the limited cost of it, they accepted it unanimously. And again, it's a function of communication. So it's something for a future conversation, I think, for us.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge Mr. Gibson, who's been sitting here patiently.
Oh, thank you. This is
Yes.
a valuable conversation. I think 2 questions. One, what does the town do, what does the town do when this money from seniors is no longer available? In the past, towns build a budget based on a certain amount of income. And now that income is not that tax revenue is not going to be available. I don't know whether you have the answer to that, but that's a question that I'm posing. What do the fiscal planners do when that money is no longer available? The second question is, and you've alluded to it, Chris, at some point, it's a question or a statement, there may be value in gathering more data defining what the problem is. What I'm hearing is, someone has invented a solution to a problem, and an unintended consequence is it creates another problem. And I'm wondering if there's not a way to get a holistic assessment of what seniors need based on their input, as opposed to assumptions some legislator makes. B, taking a look at the variety of interventions that are available, examining those available, examining those that are available to see if they're going to meet the need. If not, how to invent other interventions that will meet the need. Is that clear?
Somewhat. But I'll just start, and I'm sure.
Well, Chris, if I could speak to just one aspect of that.
Please.
I just did a quick calculation while you were talking, Roland. And if we were wildly successful with the deferral program, and we had 20 seniors whose properties were signed up for this, and let's say that their tax bills is $5,000 a reasonable amount for a senior's tax bill? That would be $100,000 that the town wouldn't have out of a $34 million budget. And my suspicion would be that the town would be able to deal with that.
I think they would borrow.
They would find a way to deal with it. I mean, it's a very small amount, $100,000.
Interest at 8%.
Well, $100,000 out of a $34 million budget is a very small amount. I'm sure they would find it. And that would be only if we were wildly successful. If we had what most towns have, which is 4 or 5 people, we're talking a very small amount of money that the town would not receive from tax revenue.
Thank you.
So just to put some numbers around that idea.
And theoretically, if the program is being well communicated and it's got some good sustainability to it, there are people, and you can choose to satisfy that lien and come off the program at any point in time, even before the property has a transaction. So you would imagine that there'd be a situation where there are folks enrolling in the program and coming off of the program in any given year, where that interest which is accruing is coming into the town's coffers. So there's a displacement, even the best or worst case, depending on how you look at it, is marginal.
George,
Now it's-
Down the road, they get extra money.
Right, the town, there's income, to the town in the form of that interest, which was accruing and put in an account. So-
George,
Yeah, my suggestion to the town would be, on that money that they no longer have immediate use for, would simply be to, under the program, set up a rainy day fund and let that money go over into there, and they could pull it out as it came in. So if you set it up that way, then they automatically calculate that that amount is amount that they're going to let it go over into the rainy day fund, which is on the record. So that would be the best solution. And they
thank
wouldn't
you.
have to-
Oops, sorry. Thank you, George. You were sitting back. I thought you were done. I
Yeah,
didn't mean to
yeah,
interrupt
yeah.
you.
I had something, but that's all right.
No,
Go
no,
ahead.
you can finish.
No, go ahead, Bob's all right. That's all
I'm
right.
sorry.
That's all right.
Well, my only suggestion is we can play with all of these things as alternatives and so forth. At this point, I think we need to make a decision as to whether we agree with the program, whether it should be changed, and if so, to move, to ask the selectmen for a warrant on the fall, with X number as the limit and X number as the interest, and perhaps a 6-month from time of death to, for a house sale before changing the interest rate. And if we can put together something that says that and we can agree to it, the rest of it's got to go from there.
It gets it
That's
out
my own
there.
opinion.
I think if, what you're saying, Bob, is if we vote on this and we make the recommendation, it also gets it out on the table. With the
Starts
Board of
education-
Selectmen.
Starts the
And it
education
starts,
process.
that's right, it starts the education process. And I think we need to, maybe I think I'm hearing from everyone, we need to do that. Yes, Mrs. Levine?
With all that you've had to say, I think this is great. And if you did make a vote, like I think Bob suggested, to have the selectmen at least look into this and put it on the town warrant. But I think a subcommittee should be formed, and maybe just not with your board. Look at the number of people that showed up today just to discuss this one point. And perhaps they would volunteer to be on this subcommittee with some members of the board. Because this is, I never heard of this myself, this program. So that's a recommendation I would suggest.
I don't know who to go first, who had their hand up first. I'm sorry, George, and then Bob.
I'll let Bob go.
All right.
No, all I'm saying is, a lot of these things need to be worked out, and I think the board would agree that once this warrant is agreed to, that we would need to then have informational meetings and let people know what the problems are, what the complexities are, what is there. But first of all, we got to get it in place, or it doesn't mean a thing.
The details can come later.
That's right, yeah. George?
What I would do, because we're getting some
Right.
time made up here.
Yes.
What I would like to do is make a motion that we prepare data for warrant to be given to Keith for him to pass on to the selectmen. And I think naming the program, I think the second thing would be we'll put the income limit there. I would recommend 55. And I think for the interest rate, I would say somewhere between 0 and 8. So they can come up with and determine what the town feel comfortable with, saying that we'll let this money slide at this interest rate,
We have a motion on the table. Discussion.
Gotta get a second on it first.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
Well, actually, he's moved that, it isn't really a motion, because, George, what are you moving? That we make up the warrant statement and give it to the selectmen?
Right.
Okay.
Ask,
Up to Keith.
that we ask the selectmen, or we suggest to the selectmen that they,
I'd like to see us lead a little bit more with respect to the interest rate.
I agree.
And maybe suggest a more narrow range, but I think a range is a great idea that George suggests, to give them, the selectmen, some discretion and their great experience with these matters. But I would be more comfortable suggesting a range between 2% and 4%.
That's what I was thinking.
But I really would love to see it be 0, but with the eye towards not having to revisit this for some number of years, so that we decrease the confusion and complexity around it, that we suggest a range of between 2% and 4%. 4 being the maximum, given what's happening in surrounding towns, which is primarily between 0 and 4.
We'll make it 0 and 4 then instead of
Yeah.
1, 2 to 4.
0, 4, sure.
0 and 4.
Sure, good point.
They might feel compelled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what about the
Time
amount of
element?
time after death?
I think we can put down, I'd say from 0 to 4.
Months?
Months.
That's an awful short time for an
Yeah.
executive to sell a house.
Yeah. And if the house is.
No, but isn't it from,
Well, it could be transferred.
wait to be recognized,
one at a
wait to be
time.
recognized, please.
I'm sorry, Kathy, sorry.
If it's in a trust,
If
they
it's
can't
not in a trust, and
Excuse
it
me.
goes to probate,
That's right.
you can't use that money for a good 365 days from the date of death. If there's no trust, and a lot of people don't have trust.
Let's just put a minimum of a year, Bob.
You know?
Put a minimum of a year.
I'm looking at that.
If you write as a minimum of a year, then they give you latitude that you could go beyond it with approval.
Susan had a question. Pardon me? Susan had a question. She doesn't, she's all set, I just checked with her. Susan, yes, Mr. Kaufman.
John Coughlin. As my boss used to say to me, don't come in here with a problem if you don't have a solution. So if we, you, the board, if you will, drafts a policy with all the numbers attached to it, and what Pam said about the $100,000 or whatever that number was, I forget. If we could incorporate those numbers, and I think it would be easier for them to understand. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. All right,
Do I have a second?
yes, do we have a second on George's motion?
Just review those numbers one more time before we.
Okay,
Can you
here's
read
what
it back?
Here's what I've got. George Sanders moved that we make a warrant article and present it to the selectmen with 50,000 as the limit and 0 to 4% interest and time after death to allow sale for 1 year prior to the interest rate going to the state 16%.
Should be 55.
55, you said,
55.
yeah.
I said
Excuse me.
55.
What did I say?
50.
Oh, I'm sorry, 55,000 is the limit, 0 to 4% interest.
You don't have to say that they have to own the property?
That's all part of the law.
That's part of it? No trust?
We're just amending the present law, which has all of that in it.
Do
Okay.
you want to reference this law and chapter within the motion? I can read it.
Okay.
Don't they have the whole wording in that little document?
It is, it's right on the cover, but whatever's easier. Bob, if you'd like me to read it.
Okay,
or-
what's the reference?
Okay, so the program is called Property Tax Deferral for Seniors.
Wait a minute. Yeah.
Under Chapter 182, Section 14.
Whoa.
It's all right here, Bob. Need
Chapter
help?
182, Section 14.
Of the Acts of 2008.
Okay.
And then you'll see the reference in the parenthetical general law, Chapter 59.
Well, they can,
You'll see that in Clause 41A.
okay, do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right. Are we good to go here?
Okay.
It has been moved and seconded. Essentially, if you want to, does anybody need to hear the motion again?
No, but I
Everybody
have a
clear?
question though.
All right.
The question is that we're going to vote this through. Now, who's going to be responsible for putting this together and sending it to Keith?
I think it would be nice to have Chris involved in that, if he would be willing to be involved in that, since you're kind of person who has helped do that. I'd be working.
Can we, I'll say that in
We
the
need to
sentence
vote.
afterwards, that the approved motion will be completed by Chris and Pam to present to the selection. Okay, But I wanted to get the motion down first.
Well, the question is, you okay with that?
The normal process when you make a vote that is important to the Board of Selectmen is that I forward that to Keith, the exact wording from your document, and then inform him of anything else that he needs to know to understand the context.
So what we'll do is you'll prepare the article, and you'll provide him with the minutes of the meeting, and so it'll go.
I usually make a very specific email to him and Bonnie that has just a section of the minutes that pertains to that vote and any context that he
Whatever you'd
needs to
like.
understand. And Chris, you can help me to put some wording together following the wording that's in this document?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because they make suggestions within this informational document about how you'd want to word it on the warrant item.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, and thank you to Pamela for bringing this to our attention just for conversation. This
It's
is
a wonderful,
it's a
We have to
meaningful
make- we have to
program.
vote
We
the
need to
motion.
vote.
Seniors should be aware of.
No,
Right,
no,
we-
we need a motion.
We have a
We have a
motion.
motion.
We have a motion, and we
And a
have a
second.
second, and we've had discussion. It's the further discussion on the motion. All right, are we ready to vote?
Yep.
All right. All of those in favor?
Aye.
No,
No opposition.
nope. We're good to go. All right, and we need to move on. We're running out of time here today. Thank you all. That's a very interesting, and it is good information, and it's going to be an exciting project to get the information out there, I think. All right, we have the Elder and Human Services is a new business, item B. Elder and Human Services Needs Assessments. We had a subcommittee established, and maybe Pam, I don't know whether you want to jump in on this, but.
Well, I can start at the beginning of this, which is the Board of Selectmen goal.
Okay.
So those of you who follow the Board of Selectmen probably realize that out of their 9 goals that they set for the coming fiscal year, they specifically called out Elder and Human Services and Senior Tax Relief. And I thank you very much for the work that you just did, because that speaks very clearly to the second part of that goal. Keith had me prepare a short statement to go to Board of Selectmen with suggestions around those goals, and tax deferral was one of the items that I had on that statement to him, and it will be part of a document that he presents at the meeting tonight. But the first half of that goal is to try to provide support to us for services in Elder and Human Services. And when I first thought about this, I didn't want to rush right into making a list of programs or a list of, give us this much money and we'll do this kind of thing. I chose instead to take a step back and to think about the work that we did over the last year with the needs, the Unmet Needs Assessment Group, the subcommittee out of this board, and realize that before I make requests and before we start asking for money out of Elder and Human Services or from the COA board for COA, that I think we needed a real clear direction about what the need is out there. And what you were saying, Roland, fit exactly in with what I was going to say about this. I have suspicions that there are some real needs out there, and they go far beyond programmatic things. There, I suspect, is food insecurity. There is a lot of
That
fiscal.
survey that you did would fill that part. Remember, we had that survey recently of all those needs? What do we think the seniors, that would fit there?
You'll have to refresh
Remember?
my memory, Mary, but
Yeah.
I was on a subcommittee with Bob and Marcia Russell, and we were looking at doing a comprehensive unmet needs assessment for Littleton. We brought in a speaker from UMass Worcester, a skilled gerontologist who had done this with other towns, and the upshot of this, and I realize we're under pressure of time, and we'll talk about it more later certainly, is that the first recommendation I made to Keith is that we reactivate that subcommittee, repopulate it because it doesn't have a full complement any longer with the board changes, and that we pull a proposal together asking the town to help us to make that happen. Part of the reason that we were not able as a board to go forward with that was funding. These services, the expertise that these people bring to the table is not cheap. And we just didn't have anything in our budget. And Bob, I don't know if you want to say anything about this because you're the surviving member of the subcommittee.
Well, the only thing that I would say is that we came to the determination that we played games with these little things that we've tried to do ourselves and got no answers and never had any luck with really identifying needs. We met with this lady from UMass Bridgewater. Bridgewater?
Was it Bridgewater? I thought it was Worcester.
Okay, whatever.
The gerontology
But anyway,
group
wherever,
over there.
whichever wants you to, this is their work, and they've done it with some major communities on the Cape, down in Brockton, other places. The only problem is it's $35,000. And so we had to defer until we could find money. But we need to find a way to deal with really identifying specifically needs that seniors have that we can, and some that we maybe not be able to do anything about. And in order to do that, it needs to be done in a more professional manner than we've ever tried before. That was our report to you.
And with the horizon that we would be trying to plan for 2020. Not for next week, not for next year, but to plan for the needs for seniors in town until 2020.
So we have, I think, a need to reestablish the
Needs Committee.
Needs Committee, Senior Needs Committee, to move forward and to have the subcommittee work on this project and try to, move things along a little so that we don't just stop. It's something that's going to take some time. There's no question about it, but it's going to be well worth it, I think. So I'm asking for volunteers, since everyone's job description says you need to be serving on some kind of a committee, a subcommittee. You need to fulfill that obligation. And so those of you who are not on a committee, think about it, because we're looking for volunteers.
Can I volunteer, even though I'm not on the board yet?
Subcommittees can only be made up of members of the
Members,
committee.
yeah.
Which answers your question about having those other people be members of a subcommittee for this committee.
Yes.
She can be invited once the subcommittee is established.
As a visitor.
As a visitor, right.
Absolutely.
We
By
can
that time, she may
then
be
put her
on
on the
board.
committee as soon as she gets voted by the state.
Right. That's right. Yes, Chris?
I would be happy to serve on it. I think that the knowledge and experience that has accrued, though, and the work that's been done would be critical since I'm brand new to it. So I'm hoping Bob may stay engaged with that, so that I can take his guide and follow his lead.
Well, the subcommittees, Pamela generally, I know, I serve on the membership subcommittee, and Pamela is great about attending our meetings.
Oh, wonderful. Good.
And, yeah, she's the staff person that attends, and so you work with
Perfect.
her. Yes.
But it would be great if
Yes.
Bob would continue.
And, yes. George?
Madam Chair, just a point of information. I think anytime you can get someone that wants to volunteer to help out I tell you that you definitely shouldn't turn it down, because volunteers are hard to come by, and even though you can have a committee and you can have participation that comes from the community at the committee. So I said that if she wants to volunteer, I'd say take her on, even though she ain't on the committee yet.
I've already
And
put
can
her on
I-
as a visiting member.
And if Madam Chair, could I please make a point?
Yes, Pam.
By the way, you will remember when we set the subcommittees last year, that members of subcommittees must go to Diane and be sworn as members of the subcommittee. All the meetings of a subcommittee must submit and post an agenda, and they are open meetings that anyone can attend.
So you're always welcome to attend, yes. And
It would be nice to have at least one more person.
so can we do, yes, I agree with you. 3 is a good number, I think, to have. I mean, Pam is not
I'm not a voting member because
not a
I'm not a
voting
member
member
of
of
the
a subcommittee, but she's a very valuable member. At
Okay,
least from my
seeing,
experience.
seeing as we have some capable people, I will be glad to join the team.
Wonderful, thank you. So we have Louise, Chris, Bob, And then, of course, Pamela will be working with you. So thank you all ever so
And a
much.
sit-in.
And Susan is a visiting member.
And Susan, yes. You already have volunteer help there. You're going to really have a great, it's going to be great. You're going to be moving right along. I can see it all happening now. So, all right, thank you. Okay, can we move on to the last new business item, and that is the Emeritus Board Member nominee. Barbara, I think, is
All
going to
right,
speak.
the nominating committee proposes that our past board member, Mary Kay, be elected to emeritus status. She has certainly served the board with distinction. The 4 qualifications that are listed in the emeritus information here: served on the COA board with distinction, held an important leadership role and made or continued to make significant contributions, engaged in major volunteer or advocacy activities in his or her service on the board, completed the term for which he or she was appointed. And I'm sure that you all agree that Mary
She founded the
qualifies
council.
for all of those.
She
Husband,
founded
with the
Right,
husband.
exactly. We need a committee to follow up on this and look into all that we have to look into, and then have
First you need to vote her.
Pending a vote,
a
if the committee
celebration.
votes
Yeah.
to recognize Mary Kay
Right,
in this manner, then we need a committee, yes.
yeah. Which might be, what, in the fall?
Depends on the committee, and I think how you feel, or whatever the committee would recommend, but Louise has her hand up, George, and then you.
Well, I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I personally feel that it's important to involve the Friends in the planning of
Oh, yeah.
this.
Yeah, they will be.
Yep. Okay.
We need to
And-
decide that we're going to vote to do this first.
Well, I'll for the first vote.
George?
What was,
Senior moment.
It's okay.
we gotta think about
It happens, it happens.
When you say a hand up, it's just like.
The reality is, right, it happens to us all sooner or later.
COA board.
So. All right. All right, so we have a proposal on the table that Mary Kay be
I know
recognized.
what it is now.
Yes, there, I see, I knew it would help you if I talked about it.
Have anybody heard anything about Mary Kay?
No,
So sad.
nothing.
Kind of
I
understand.
think, but there's a lot of feeling, people have served with Mary I'm new to the board. I knew Mary, however, I was one of the original board members, but not for a very long period before I stepped down, but I knew her then too, so she has served for years with distinction. She served the
Served well,
town.
No question about that.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, the nominating committee, which doesn't need a second because it's a committee, moves to having met the requirement of the board for an honorary member, that Mary Kay be made an honorary member of the board of COA. The vote was
An emeritus member.
Emeritus
Not
status.
honorary member.
I'm sorry. AS or US?
U.S. All right. Do we have
Got a
s-
motion, I second.
You're seconding?
No, it doesn't need to be seconded. It was a nominating committee, so it's
Oh, okay.
only one person.
All right, is there discussion, further
The
discussion?
vote.
Any further discussion? No.
Anybody?
Anybody, any discussion? May we take a vote then? All those in favor? Opposed? None. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the reports. Since we're like going over here, we try to be out by 3. So we're not
lot to
quite
cover
making it
today.
today, but we get into a very interesting, valuable discussion, I think. So, Friends update.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm still here.
We're glad. Very glad.
Yeah. No, it was interesting. But first of all, I did not hand out minutes today from the Friends because we didn't have a meeting in July, and our meeting minutes for the month before were not approved yet. So when they are approved, you'll get a copy, but we have been working just the same, and we okayed money to take care of working on room 233, and also Pam's office. We'll paint that. She's got some people coming in to do that. We've already painted room 233, and we're having some shelving designed and made. A fellow that George recommended. And so that'll be hopefully done. I would like it finished so that we could clean up the rooms in September sometime. We've been working on programs, and we are all set until May, actually.
Wow.
So the first thing being the ice cream social, September 17th, and we're going to Kimball's. Only 50 people can come with us, and hopefully 50 people have either signed up or will by September 12th.
It's free.
I'm sorry?
It's free.
17.
And it's free.
And it's free.
Anyway, gotta
Ice
throw
cream
that.
social is what date?
17th of September.
September 17th.
17th of September at Kimball's, but you have to sign up for it
Put it on your
in
calendar.
the office.
It's
What
on
time
there.
is it?
It's on there.
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
What?
2 p.m.
2 p.m., yeah. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't listening to that. I had 1 to 3 here. Did I do that again?
You changed, I
I
have you
keep
change
changing. Okay, sorry.
It's 2 to 3.
2 to
I
3.
don't need a time.
All right, and then in October, we are gonna have an Oktoberfest again. That'll be October 15th. And I won't go on with all the rest, because you'll be seeing it in the newsletter and any flyers
What
that
kind of
we
beer you
put
got?
out.
And thank you very much for that schedule. That helps a lot because we're scheduling events
Yep. And we're all booked
all ahead.
for the room, and we're set.
Which you gave the broadcaster. I hope the time for the social was 2 to 3, not 1 to 2.
We'll find out.
You can
If
still
you're
get to her
watching this,
today.
ignore the 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock.
You can still get to her
I
today.
wrote
It has not
noon
gone
on
to
my
bed. I haven't seen a
calendar.
final version.
Okay. That's it?
That's it. Thank you. Budget monthly reports.
Okay, you'll have 2 reports in front of you. These are for this year. They include the new salaries for the director and the outreach coordinator and the new hours. And this is for the first month. We will provide you with a year-end report, but there were some adjustments made at the end of the year, which we have to work out with the accounting office before we put together the final report for last year, and we'll bring that in September. Any questions?
I forgot his keys.
Just a note on the monthly riders. The monthly riders is 417, but the what Pam gives me to put out, and I don't put it all in here, is not only the number of riders, but the number of people we had to turn down because of the overload of covering the hours that we had, and there were 12 of them this month that we had to say no to. A couple of them were medical, some of them were social. But it's showing the huge use of our transportation system. Even though we have adjusted it so that we only go to Boston or to Leahy Clinic or a place like that a couple of days a month, which we used to go and take up the whole van for that whole period. So it's really getting to the point where we're really significantly carrying many, many, many people during the hours that we serve.
George?
Question, on these people with Medica, is how much time frame we're turning these down from the date of the appointment, and if we are making any recommendation for them to try some alternate means of getting there without having to cancel, because most time when it's Medica, if it's the VA, you know what the problem is that people been running into with the VA. It's a long time getting that appointment. I don't know about the private sector out there, but I'm just wondering, are we just saying no to them, or are we saying no, but you should try contact here or there?
Mary's got a question.
Mary?
I have circulated copy of the Groton newsletter for July, and on the front sheet, they got a new van, and they're elated, and they're offering services into the Boston area for the surrounding towns. That should be provided information. They go give the days, let's see, to the different ones, and the charges. I think we charge $7 for anything over 15. They do 10. Other than that, I think it's very reasonable. They go to Leahy. They go to all the Boston hospitals. This information should be related to the people that are being turned down. I think I gave you a copy. I'm not sure.
The veterans are free.
This is George's copy.
The veterans are free. They put-
And veterans are free, yeah.
Okay. Pam?
To respond to your question, George, yes, we do offer alternatives to people. The first line of defense is we ask people to change their appointments. And we found that often by just asking people to change their appointment to the Wednesday times, that they come back and they indeed are able to make the change. I will tell the board that I do make exceptions for people that I know are in extreme circumstances. We have a veteran who is in an electric wheelchair, and I know that it's very difficult for him to make any alternative arrangements, so we've made exceptions for him to go on days when he does need to go for his appointments, because, just for that reason, George, that it is so hard to change any appointments with the VA. We've also made other arrangements. We have a client at Pine Tree who we were able to get Minuteman to provide some services for transportation for that person. We had a couple of people that got turned down that were at Life Care. Life Care does have a van service, but they like to try to use us as a first choice if they can. So we do offer them alternatives. Tina has also been great in coming forward at times with friendly visitors who are willing to take people for appointments. So, yeah, we do offer alternatives. And Mary, I'm very interested to see that from Groton.
You may have it.
Yeah.
They go into Leahy, Burlington, Emerson, Mass General, you name it. That's George's copy. Thank you, George.
Great. This must be a new service on their part, because they didn't used to go that far.
It is, and they say they're willing to oblige to neighboring towns.
That's great. That's great.
Thank you.
You don't have a copy?
Yeah, right here. I have it.
Okay.
You gave it to me just before the meeting.
I got a copy from you from that.
Yes, Barbara?
Oh, there was
She gave you my
one
copy.
woman down in the diner who said that
It's nice of you to give it
the
to me.
van
Excuse
just
me.
goes on Wednesday into Boston, but her doctor doesn't work on Wednesdays. His
Right.
office is closed, as probably a lot of them are.
Right.
So,
Okay, so if I can take a minute to talk about using a contractor for dispatch services. So when you're contracting out your dispatch services, it's not the same as having a person in the next room who works for you and who you pay. So when I deal with Transaction Associates as a contractor, I have to give them some rather firm rules. So the rules are, this is the way it is. Please change your appointment to the Wednesdays to come into line. If that can't be done, then they are to call me. And as I said to George, I do make exceptions for people who cannot make other arrangements. But I have found that an unbelievable number are able to change their appointments, even if they first say, no, that's the only appointment I can get. If they actually call the doctor's office, they often are quite accommodating in making changes. We had a recent situation where someone was to go to, I think it was Burlington, and the doctor wanted to see them at 3:30 in the afternoon, and we said, this is going to be really difficult for us, because I've also, again, given dispatch very clear instructions that we are not to be out on the road after 4:30. And when the person called, their doctor immediately changed their appointment to 11. So I think people are reluctant to make a change, and I know my personal experience has been with some of these specialty clinics that you step up to the desk and they just say, you'll be seen you know, Thursday, and this is the time. They don't negotiate at all, but they will negotiate if you tell them you have transportation issues. And if that person hasn't spoken to me, she needs to talk to me.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe people need to direct people to Pam.
Yeah.
Good. George?
Yeah, usually if the patient would tell them that they are riding on the shuttle, usually that helps also when they're getting appointments as
Yep.
well. Well, I just know with the VA, you got an appointment, you're looking at, tomorrow, the next day, it's almost like impossible.
And we do make, I do make exceptions. What I'm trying to get away from is a situation where I have one van in Boston on Monday, and a van in Boston on Tuesday, and a van in Boston on Wednesday, which means that for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of that week, I only have one van to do all the other rides. And last Friday, we ran 34 rides in one day.
Pam, everything you say is true. I worked at Dr. John's for 15 years. I know what you're saying. It is amendable.
Yeah, people understand.
It is 3:15, shall we continue?
Yes, okay. Anything else as far as transportation goes? Are we ready to move on to the Director's Monthly Report and Wellness Coordinators?
So I will point out to you that you have two directors' reports. One is for June and one is for July. The one for June has a front sheet that is the fiscal year 2014 summary. I don't want to belabor this meeting because I know you can read this, but I would like to have for the cameras on record a little bit of information about what happened for us last year. 550 individual seniors visited the center last year. Attendance at all events was over 11,000. That was an increase of 19% over the previous fiscal year. We ran 566 programs, educational programs like hearing loss, emergency planning, health programs like the blood pressure clinic, podiatry, fun things like mahjong and bingo. That 566 programs was a 14% increase over the previous year. We've also added some new services. You may be aware that Tina runs a social anxiety group twice a month, very popular. And we also have the Chit Chat Club for isolated seniors, which is our pre-dementia group. Enrollment in that is building every week. Van ridership, as you can probably guess from the discussion, is up. We went from 26 rides in the previous year to over 4,300 rides.
Almost 4,400.
Yeah, almost 4,400 rides. It was a 21% increase in van ridership. I would like to be able to say that I got a 21% increase in the money that I was given to run vans. I did not receive a 21% increase in the money. So we are really struggling in the transportation area, and I'm spending a lot of time talking with Keith about how we can meet our obligation over the next year without having to cut back on service. Outreach was, as you can guess, extremely busy. 3,395 visits with residents. This was an increase of 89% since 2012.
2 years.
That represents the change when we turned from
89?
89% from COA into Elder and Human Services, and Tina opened up her doors to everyone in town. Again, thank you very much for all your advocacy and getting the extra 10 hours for Tina. We're keeping her busy with them. Senior tax program, again, a very strong win-win program. Last year, seniors got about $630 in an abatement, and the town received over 7,000 hours of labor in multiple departments, and with excellent feedback. I don't think I had more than maybe 1 or 2 people that were asked not to come back to departments. And all of the departments that participated last year want to participate going forward. And then, as I said, all the rest are statistics that you can read to keep you up on what's going on. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
to the
George.
director on the report here, how much money had we program in there for the transportation that we had budget?
The transportation budget has not changed. It's been $68,000 for several years. You're talking about the money from Mark?
Okay, yeah, for the mark. So how much of that did we have for the dispatch that was coming out of there? Was it 3,000 or what?
No, Well, the budget for a dispatcher for a year is between 10 and 11,000, depends on the number of hours that the dispatcher works. That's for a half-time position.
Okay, so the fee that we are paying for the dispatcher, are we giving that total amount over on dispatch?
In December, I anticipate receiving a bill for them for $5,000 and another bill in June for $5,000. They've told us that our assessment for the year will be $10,000.
Okay, now, you mentioned about talking to Keith about money to pay this bill that we're getting assessed here with this assessment. Why can't we take that?
No, I didn't talk to him. That was Marge and Bob that talked to him.
Okay. But you said something in your report that you had talked to Keith about.
No, I said
Marge
that
said
I have been sharing with Keith that I anticipate another shortfall in the coming year because we are so busy.
Okay, well, where can we get the money for this assessment that's being put in there? What about the town taking the money that we're turning in for the rides and use that money to pay the transportation, because that's exactly where it comes from?
Okay, so if you guys want some facts and figures, last month, we received $500 in fares for the rides on the van. When I turn in my bill to MART, I give them my expenses, how much it costs me for drivers, and then they subtract that $500 from my expenses and they pay me the difference.
That's how the bill is agreed to by.
That's the agreement between MART and the
Doing that
Board of
for years.
Selectmen. So if I were to raise, let's say I doubled the amount that I charge people to ride and I got $1,000, then MART would give me $1,000 less. So fares are not a viable alternative, and doubling the cost for rides would, I think, be very, very difficult for some people.
Oh, yeah, I know that.
I think, too, it's important to remember, the day that Bob and I met with Keith, he explained that he is looking at the whole transportation issue, because he knows, he realizes it's an issue. And they're looking to make it a separate town budget item down the road. So it isn't something that he's not aware of. That's what I think I'm trying to say, and I think he's looking at different ways of trying to meet this need, because
Well, the only
he
thing-
validates it too. I think he's,
And I think he's quite open to the fact that in the meantime, in the interim, when there are overages, it's going to have to be worked out by the town. So I'm not really concerned. I mean, we have a budget which we work on and we go by, but the town is amenable at this point to covering problems until they get this whole cross-town and the whole system resolved.
so, I mean, it is, and we should be concerned, because it's a reality right now, but it's not that
Well,
the
the only
town
thing,
isn't aware of the concern too, and they are worried about it, are looking for solutions, I think.
well, the only thing I just had concern about was the fact that the town put this program in. So this is the part of the mix that the town didn't pick up. And I just don't want us to have to cut short on the seniors.
Keith has agreed we will not have to do that, George.
All right.
And if I can just follow your thread, George, in terms of other ways to get money. So the other logical answer would be, well, just ask MART for more money. But I pursued that, and I talked with Bonnie, and I found out that the $68,000 that we get from MART is not free and clear. They do not give us $68,000.
Well, I know that.
They provide $68,000 to us, and then it comes back on the cherry sheet from the state that we pay 50 cents on the dollar.
Right.
So Bonnie is not interested in asking them to say up it to $78,000 or something like that, because that means the town is going to kick in half
Right,
of that
right.
amount. So she's open and talking with Keith about alternative ways, and they definitely do see this as a town issue. It's not our issue, it's a town issue.
Oh, yeah, I know that. I've been knowing that ever since they did it.
Right.
Okay.
We've struggled with that for years, haven't we?
Oh, gee.
All right, can we move on to Tina's report, the Outreach Coordinator's monthly report?
You want my report? Last
Not
but
yet.
not least?
Yeah,
Oh, I
you-
thought she
Tina.
said
Tina.
seniors.
Tina.
I'm
Tina.
sorry,
Tina.
I'm hard in hearing.
Tina.
Sorry.
Seniors. Thank you.
As you all know, as of July 1st, I became a full-time employee. And I thought I was going to have the downtime without advertising it in the newsletter yet. But the Fridays have been very busy, and the extra time I work till 5 p.m. now, that's been really busy. But some of the highlights of the summer, the chairperson, Marge Payne, and I attended a Minuteman Senior Service Hoarding event, and that helped us later work with Neshoba Nursing Service on developing a hoarding task force, which is just very exciting for the town. And September 11th, I believe, is the next meeting along those lines, and we've got a lot of good information from both programs. I feel fortunate to have some senior tax workers who are acting as friendly visitors, and in that capacity, they've been doing some driving on medical appointments and that sort of thing, and filling a need for some of these residents in town. The Catholic Heart Work Camp finished up, and they serviced 11 households in town. It's another program we hope to continue again next year. The fire department had a cookout, and we assisted them with getting emergency contact information put into their database, and that was pretty successful on the day of the cookout, and then had extras that keep coming in and getting referred over to the fire department. The anxiety support group continues to go well, and we continue to poll the participants to see if they want to continue to meet every other week, and they do, so we keep it going every other week. The Chit Chat Club has been a wonderful addition. It's taken off, and we're building we have a good base of volunteers to assist the program coordinator, and we're building appropriate people. It meets on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and we love it when they can participate on both Wednesday and Thursday. It's a nice continuity. I think they're all finding the cost very affordable. It includes their ride, their lunch, and all their activities, and it's really, it's really going well. It's a nice program.
And when you say satisfaction, you're talking about the families as well as the participants,
Oh,
right?
yes, definitely. We're getting a lot of positive feedback. It's really a nice program.
In fact, I would urge board members to take yourself to the senior center for lunch on Thursdays when they have the a little bit different lunch than they do the rest of the week, and you'll get to see the Chit Chat Club when they come in to eat, and it's remarkable. It really is a great thing.
It is. It was so good to see Edith, for instance, who used to come to the meal site very often, 2 or 3 times a week. Then she went on Meals on Wheels, and then we have not seen her for a long time because she wasn't able to come out. Well, she's out for the Chit Chat.
Yeah.
It was so good to see her, and she's so happy to see everybody.
I would
She
encourage
just-
you all to, stop down sometime
Yeah.
and grab,
They're having
have
such
lunch
a good
and
time,
yeah,
too.
it's great.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine.
But-
Pretty much, I wanted to keep it short.
Yeah,
and
but that's-
just let you know about some of the highlights, and I'll be available to answer any other questions later.
Thank you.
Whatever.
I think you already need more help.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Senior Diner Bingo Monthly Report. Barbara?
Actually, no. Everything's going along, as usual.
Well, good. That's a good thing.
Usual.
That is a good thing.
You must be
Thursdays-
relieved that you're not going to be out on September 1st.
That's right, that, invited everybody to come on Thursdays. Thursdays is a home-cooked meal by a volunteer, usually.
Yep.
And it's a special meal, it's very good, it's very well attended,
Yep.
and you all come down.
It's a
Yeah.
wonderful meal. For $3, you
For
have a great
$3,
lunch
yeah,
and just, and it's really, I enjoy seeing the Chit Chat Club when they come in and they sit and socialize and eat and, so, anyway.
Good deal.
It is. All right, Mary.
All right, I had 5 issues, but I've dwindled it down to 3 because 2 of them have been covered. We have welcomed the new members. The second item I had was that the selectmen have appointed the town administrator, Keith Bergman, to serve on Mart on the advisory board, and that covers western Middlesex counties, including Littleton, Westminster, and Harvard. The other one is the library has
Wait a minute.
received
What is he serving on, appointed?
advisory board on the Mart Advisory Board. He was on it before.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. This evening at 8 p.m., there's a forum the selectmen are having to discuss the town goals. They have 7 issues, and there's going to share their thoughts on all of them, and they're allowing the residents, hopefully, to come and participate. The library, am I going too fast?
No,
The library has received a grant in addition to the money 40 they had, and they're from the state. They've received $30,000, and they are going to, that money is going to receive $50,000 grant. They're going to use that for the planning and design. The last is Shirley has belly dancing senior classes at the senior center. I thought we'd all be interested in that. It's for fitness and fun. George would like to say something.
I just want to thank all the members on the board, as well as the COA office and staff there, on the kind words that were sent to me, Van card there, sympathy card. I lost my brother on 25th of June in South Carolina, so I had to fly down to take care of that. So I kind of knew that he probably wasn't going to be around at any great length of time. So in April, the whole family went down to see him there. So I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate your remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
Sorry to be lost.
Yeah, thank you.
If you want information on the belly dance classes, I have a telephone number for you.
Okay, so maybe we'll end the meeting on that note. Get in touch with Mary if you want information on the belly dancing. May I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. George?
Second.
Okay, George seconded. Did you get it, Bob?
Yep.
Okay.
I'd still like an answer why on our broadcaster we have a picture of the historical building and not anything pertaining to the Council on Aging.
Stay tuned for the September broadcaster.
Oh, is it
you shall
something
receive,
different?
Mary.
Oh, boy.